It's about the restoration of our republic. We want to educate, encourage, enable the power. We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
Good morning, America. You're listening to America's Voice Now. My name is Michael Evans, and I will be your host this morning, like it or not. Hey, thanks for joining us. I'm glad that you're here. I see the folks out there catching the stream live on our website. There's a ton of you out there this morning. I see Holyoke. I'm not quite sure where that is. Massachusetts, Maine, maybe? Fort Wayne, I think that's Indiana, obviously. Sioux Falls, I see Tacoma, Washington, Mission Viejo, Magnolia. My Spanish is not so great, so that may be pronounced inaccurately. Magnolia, not quite sure where that is. I think Louisiana, maybe, southern Arkansas. Branson, of course, and I see some folks out there near Chicago. I see some folks down there in Florida. Glad to have you on board. Thank you very much. Hope that you're also catching us live on Patriot FB. We've got some good plans coming up for Patriot FB, which is Patriot F like Foxtrot, B like Bravo. Join that website if you can. It's like a Facebook clone, but it's for Patriots only. America's Voice Now plays live there every morning, followed by Resurrect the Republic with Tom Lacavera at 10, and then 2 to 4 with J.J. McCartney. J.J. is an excellent radio host and an outstanding patriot, and I would encourage you to get a hold of his show. You can also listen to the podcast anytime you want by joining, in on those podcasts at your leisure. If you'd like to listen to our program and you can't catch it live, but you want to hear it over your cell phone or your home phone, you can call our listen line. That number is 415-325-0725. That's 415-325-0725. You can call that number at your leisure, and you can catch the entire program in its complete entirety. And you can do that anytime you want after about 9:45, 10 o'clock in the morning when the recording is complete. And then you can get that program whenever it's convenient for you. If you'd like to communicate with me, I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear your feedback on our programs and what we talk about. I'd like to hear your ideas, especially about things like Monkey Wrench, which we're going to talk about this morning. The idea here is that you can communicate with me by email. Best way to do that is to send me email to mike@americasvoicenow.org. That's mike@americasvoicenow.org. Want to hear from you? Want to hear about your show ideas? I've got some limited resources here. We're trying to get some phone line stuff done, and part of that is going to be done in the next couple of weeks as Patriot FB brings on a phone system that will enable us to participate with that. And so hopefully we'll be able to get that on the road sooner rather than later. We'd be able to take call-ins from our listenership. It's just outside the purview of what I can do financially, folks, at the moment. So for those of you who can support us, please do. We are always in a deficit. I pay the difference out of my pocket every month, and I've been doing it for years. So if there's any way that you can support us, please visit our website at americasvoicenow.org. And you can click on the PayPal link there, or you can mail us a payment. The address, if you'd like to do that, is America's Voice Now, P.O. Box 1195, 1195, and that's in West Plains, Missouri, 65775. Again, that's America's Voice Now, P.O. Box 1195, West Plains, Missouri, 65775. Our 4 topics this morning. Will we ever get free of the Bush and Clinton royal families? I mean, guys, you got to be kidding me, right? Can you imagine we're going to have a Bush-Clinton matchup in 2016? What an embarrassment for our nation. I mean, I thought we tossed the British out 230 years ago over exactly this, royalty, monarchies, right? I mean, just because you're born a Bush or you're born a Clinton doesn't mean that you're entitled to run for office. Neither of them are qualified. Neither of them. Hillary's trying to explain where $6 billion went while she was Secretary of State. Jeb Bush is out there touting how immigration is not a crime, and it's not because it's not a felony. I mean, what an absurdity. We're going to talk a little bit about it. Second topic this morning, conspiracy theorists. Those of you that have been either labeled that way, either by others or by yourself perhaps, you may not be so far off. I wrote a piece and I posted it up on FB this morning, at Patriot FB and America's Voice Now, and our Facebook page at facebook.com/America's Voice Now, in which I throw out a couple of ideas that I'm challenging you to think. Think critically and question everything. Because when you accept what others tell you as whether that's the mainstream media or even the government itself, you're leaving yourself open to being played for a fool. And the truth is, let's be candid, folks, these people don't have our best interest at heart. I mean, you don't have to look far or hard to find that result. So, our third topic this morning, monkey wrench. What can we do to put sand in the gears and stop tyranny? Monkey wrench. Now, monkey wrench is the get even thing, right? In a lot of cases, you've heard that before. Parlor tricks or how to get back at somebody that's wronged you. Revenge is served best cold and all that kind of thing. That's not what this is about. Monkey wrench is, how do I put a broomstick in the spokes? How do I slow down the inevitable rise of tyrannical fascism that's invading our country? We're going to talk about some ideas, including the fact that I'm going to go over a few different specific stories, one of which is that there's federal snipers out there training guns on a family who are cattle ranchers out. And got to tell you, folks, this is armed confrontation. It's looking like the next Ruby Ridge, if you will. And so we want to talk about how you can monkey wrench that. Second thing is Boston Transit Police are conducting warrantless searches on all buses and subway riders. And guess what? If you refuse to search, they remove you physically from the subway and charge you with trespassing on public property. I mean, that's insane. How can we monkey wrench that? So the goal is for us to think creatively. What can we do to monkey wrench everything? A third topic, a teen is suspended for helping students to opt out of a Common Core English exam. Well, we're going to monkey wrench all of these topics, and we're going to talk a little bit about how we can create havoc. You're a partisan. Recognize what you are and your role here, because at this stage in the game, ladies and gentlemen, there is only one thing that we can do, which is peacefully, massively, civilly disobediently resist. Partisanship or partisan resistance, I don't mean partisanship in the traditional congressional sense of partisanship. I mean partisanship where you are taking an active role and fighting back. You are a member of the resistance, and you will do what is necessary to bring this tyranny to a halt. Gum up the works, sand in the gears, a broomstick in the spokes. That's the goal. Our fourth topic is what if? What if you don't know what you don't know? That may sound confusing, but it really isn't. What if you don't know what you don't know, and that what you don't know is being used as a tool to manipulate you, and the treason and the tyranny that is being injected into our country now, not out of a needle, but out of a turkey baster, is about to rob our nation of everything that we have ever held dear and understood. Our youth is disgusted. And frankly, they're disgusted not because they're unhappy with what they see as the current operational situation in our nation. They're disgusted because they see no future for their lives. Our seniors are disgusted because they find out that everything that they've worked for and believed in was a lie. Our middle folks, who are somewhere in between, are all disgusted because We can't afford what's being done to us. We've realized and recognized the strong-arm tactics that are being used against us, and we can't figure out how to stop it. What if it's all tyranny? What if all of this is completely unconstitutional and we're being taken over as we speak? All right, let's jump onto our first topic this morning. Will we ever get free of the Bush and Clinton royal families? Well, the truth is we can get free of them, but it's up to us to accomplish that. What it will take is us not making sure that we don't vote for either of them, frankly, because, until Chelsea rounds out, maybe in 10 years or something, we don't have to worry about her. Jeb Bush is seriously considering a run. Hillary is obviously out there collecting all the money she can to build a war chest. But both of these characters are fundamentally flawed. Not because their name is Bush or Clinton, but because their ideology is wrong. Because Bush is not a conservative. He's a Democratican, right? He's a Republican, he's a Republicrat and a Democratican. In other words, he goes whichever way the wind blows. He came out the other day and he actually had the nerve to suggest that it's not a felony if these people have broken the law to violate our borders. It's an act of love. Now, I briefly touched on this yesterday, but if this is the reasoning, Jeb, then any unemployed family who's about to lose their home, or any unemployed person who's about to have their car repossessed, they can simply go to a grocery store and steal the food they need because it's an act of love. They've got to feed their family. It's okay for them to go and siphon the propane or the gasoline that they need to get to work, or the propane they need to heat their home. It's okay for them to rob another car when their car has been taken from them. It's okay for them to go in to Walmart and pretend to slip and fall so that they can file a lawsuit and get a settlement. I mean, under your theory, Jeb, it's okay for them to go out and rob a bank. It's okay for them to go and steal and embezzle from their employer because it's an act of love. They've got to feed their family. They can't live on $10.10 an hour. I mean, the list is endless. See, the problem, Jeb, is that you're a moron. You came out and you made the ass statement of the week, which is there are no consequences to actions. Well, apparently there are no consequences to your thought process either. You gave no thought to the unintended consequences of your statement. What you're suggesting is that we've got prisons with over 2 million people in them, that half of them should be released because they committed a crime out of an act of love in an effort to try to improve their situation and their lot in life. Is that what you're trying to tell me, Jeb? Is it? I mean, theoretically, if somebody is sitting in prison for tax evasion and they were trying to keep that money so that they could improve the lot and the lives of their family, they're not guilty of anything. It's not a felony. It's not really a crime. I mean, yes, they broke the law, but we're going to forgive. If it's all about forgiveness, Jeb, then why do we have 2 million Americans sitting behind bars? I mean, if somebody's selling dope to make sure that his mother can pay the rent or keep the heat on, is that an act of love, Jeb? I mean, I know that you've never had that problem, Jeb. I know things in your household have never gotten to the point where you had to decide whether or not you were going to keep the electricity on or buy some eggs and milk. I know that. I know that you've never had to be concerned about whether or not you were going to have enough gas to get to work or you were going to run out on the way. And you didn't have any money in your pocket to afford more. And your credit had been destroyed. And so you didn't really have a credit card to use. And today is payday. and you're not sure if you're actually going to get to work, you know that you're going to probably have to get a ride from somebody at lunch to go cash your check so that you can even get home. Now, I know that you've never experienced that, Jeb, but I got to tell you that there are literally hundreds of millions of Americans who are. Now, I know that you run in circles where, that kind of situation never happens. I mean, the greatest decision you have to make is, should I buy a Mercedes or should I buy maybe a Lexus? You see, the problem with what you're saying here is that what this is really about is not whether or not it's right or wrong that we're going to forgive basically those acts which, right or wrong, you disagree with or you agree with. I mean, how did you manage to be a governor governing like that? I mean, there's no rule of law in Jeb Bush's world, is there, Jeb? What he said was, I'm going to say this and it will be on tape, and so be it. The way I look at this is someone who comes to our country because they couldn't come legally. They came to our country because their family's dad, who loves their children, was worried that their children didn't have food on the table. And they wanted to make sure their family was intact. And they crossed the border because they had no other means to work or be able to provide for their family. Yes, they broke the law, but it's not a felony. It's an act of love. It's an act of commitment to your family. I honestly think that's a different kind of crime there should be a price paid. But it shouldn't rile people up that people are actually coming to this country to provide for their families. And the idea that we're not going to fix this, but with comprehensive reform, ends up trapping those people when they could make a great contribution for their own families, but also for us. So I think we need to get beyond the harsh political rhetoric to a better place. The great number of people who come to this country come because they have no opportunities in other places. They may love their country, but they come here because they want to provide for their families. And they can make a contribution to our country if we actually organized ourselves in a better way. Well, Jeb, let me correct you on a couple of points. First and foremost, it doesn't really matter how you look at this. It matters how the law looks at this. And if you don't like the law, then you've already telegraphed to us that essentially you're going to be the next Barack Obama in office, unilaterally changing things in a dictatorial fashion. Because that's essentially what you're saying here. Secondly, you're saying that it's okay for us to be taxed into submission and, frankly, taxed until we're a greasy spot left on the ground to pay for it all. As long as, frankly, their personal goals, those of the illegals, are met. Well, who are you, Jeb, to dictate that the rest of us have to pay for that? You see, it's not just about a dad who loves his children and who's worried that their children didn't have food on the table. We've got literally tens of millions of Americans who won't have any food on their table tonight, Jeb. So is it okay if they commit a crime, Jeb? They crossed the border because they had no other means to work or be able to provide for their family. So is that the criteria, Jeb? So anyone who's submitted 100 resumes and gotten one phone call back and then was turned down because they were wrong color or maybe because they had too much education in the economy that you and your compatriots have wrought for us? Essentially what you're saying is it's okay for those people to do as they feel would be appropriate. And yes, they'll break the law, but it's not a felony, so we're going to just forgive all. You can keep the car you stole. You can keep that money you embezzled. You can keep that which you've taken that wasn't yours. Is that what you're trying to say, Jeb? I mean, help us understand, Jeb, exactly what was it that you meant? And Hillary, Would you please explain to us where the $6 billion in contracts went during your tenure as Secretary of State? $6 billion with a B, capital bold B. $6 billion, Hill. All right, we're going to take a break. You know, ladies and gentlemen, here's my suggestion for you related to both the Bushes and the Clintons and everyone else currently running or in office as an incumbent today. Fire them all. 2014, fire them all. You know, I had this shirt made up, and it says exactly that. It says, fire them all. And you may not be able to see it very well, but it has our logo placed across the top, and it's got this sign that lights up. And it says, fire them all, U.S. Congress, U.S. Senate. Fire them all. Ladies and gentlemen, by the way, if you'd like one of these, I'll be more than happy to provide one for you. Anyone who makes a donation of $30 to the program, I'll be more than happy to ship one out to you. I've got some other stuff coming on the way as well with some logo on it. If anybody's interested in shirts or sweatshirts or vests and things like that, I've got some of that kind of thing coming. But if you'd like one of those shirts that you can start wearing to protest, make a donation for $30 and I'll mail it out to your home. Just make sure that you send me your address. You can go to our website at americasvoicenow.org and click on the donation button. Just make sure that you put on there T-shirt donation and put your address on there, and I'll be more than happy to mail one out to you. I bought them, so if you can, and had to pay to have the logo put on them, so we're not far off. We'll make a few dollars on them, but not much. Here's the point, folks. Fire them all should be the only mantra that we hear. It should be on every poster. It should be plastered all over. It should be graffitied on every bridge, on every sign, on every wall that you see. Fire them all. Senate, House, Congress, everybody. Remove all of them. Not a single one left standing. Not a single one. Well, it's not my congressman. My congressman's different. You're an idiot. If you really believe that, you're an idiot. All right, we're going to take a break. When we return, we're going to tackle our second topic of this morning, which is a very interesting one because it deals with the idea of conspiracy and the concept of conspiracy theorists. The point is that you may not be as far off as you once thought you were, and I'm going to show you how being a conspiracy theorist is actually probably more accurate than those who would sit there and try to believe the other format, which is completely unacceptable, which would be the accidental history theory. All right? So stick with us. We're going to talk about that. Again, I don't know why the bumper music's not playing, but we're going to take a break in 10 seconds, and when we return, we'll tackle that topic. You're listening to America's Voice Now. You can find us live on our website at americasvoicenow.org every morning.